Yes. The other question was, I got it. I know.
Very good response.
Thank you. And the other question, when you were talking about thought forms with Ramtha, is I had another question. I've had experiences of feeling another energy that it's not an Abraham feeling, but a very unique energy, and it's usually when I'm interacting with someone that they may have been asking or talking about a loved one who's passed or something, and I've always had a distaste for being described like as a medium and not wanting to go there, because I've always felt that the medium, that word medium that people have attributed to some other people, they talk about things that don't seem to come from non-physical.
Well, let's use the word medium in the context of empathizer or energy seer or recognizer, and realize that when you interpret energy, you can interpret it from the source energy point of view, or from you see, once someone reemerges into non-physical, the vibration of that which they were is still accessible to those who are sensitive to energy. Yeah. So, but it's not different from moving around in your day-to-day experiences and having access to high-minded thoughts or petty thoughts, thoughts of appreciation or thoughts of criticism. In other words, the more you train yourself, the more you deliberately quiet your mind and allow your vortex to train your vibration into alignment with who it is, who you really are, then the less access you would have to any of that. Now let's take what we were talking about with our friend earlier about the different vibrational aspects of people, because you are really a vibrational mixed bag, and the potential of rendezvousing with one another on many, many levels is there all the time. When you become someone who really cares about how you feel, so you tend to your frequency deliberately, your life becomes so much easier, because not only do you then have to no longer sort through who you're meeting on a physical level. In other words, traffic is better around you, and people who interact with you are lining up with the whole of who you are. We didn't get that far in our analogy earlier, but if you are 100% or even 90% in any moment of time in alignment with your vortex, then large parts of the population that surrounds you cannot access you in any way. Now, when you begin to understand that the population that surrounds you are not just physical bodies that are walking around, it's every thought that has ever been thought that is moving around, it really makes it feel prudent to do this really simple, basic, core work of getting into the vortex, because you have so much less stuff to sift through. So it's a good thing that you are sensitive to energy. It's an even better thing when the energy you're sensitive to is the energy that matches that which you really want and that which you really are.
Thank you. That alleviates the fear of tapping into things that I didn't feel aligned with. So, yeah.
Jerry and Esther have a very dear friend who they met in one of their first public experiences with Abraham. And she was on her way, she told them this later, she was on her way to the seminar not knowing who they really were. And she had been a student of Ramtha. She had been a student of many things. And in her own experience, she was very visually translating. In other words, she often saw someone walk through her bedroom in the night in the form of what she described as a ghost. She was an energy translator visually. So she is on her way to see Jerry and Esther, to meet Jerry and Esther, and a very small group in Dallas, Texas. And she said out loud as she was driving, "Abraham, are you angel or devil?" Which gives you a little bit of idea of where she was coming from, because she had not yet learned about vibration. She had not yet learned about her inner being. She was a translator of energy and was translating all kinds of different things, and so having different kinds of experiences. And even though there is nothing that could be defined as devil, she could feel the difference between aligning with source and not, and that was the distinction that she was making. And so, as the gathering began, Esther was sitting in those days, and there was a small group gathered in a large circle, and Esther recalls that Abraham opened her eyes, addressed the group slightly, and then looked at one person and was silent for quite a long while. And Esther remembers feeling a little unsettled in it, because that was not the normal way that a gathering began. And then a week or two later, as Jerry and Esther became acquainted with this woman, she said that during that time that Abraham was addressing her silently, that the entire room had filled with angels' wings. In other words, it was our answer to her question in a way that she could understand. Now, what we are getting at with all of that is no one else in the room saw the angel's wings. Esther was not even aware of the projection of that. She was only aware that it was unusual and that there was something interesting going on. So what we are getting at in any interaction with anyone, whether you're interacting with non-physical, whether you're interacting with one another, there are all kinds of potential rendezvous points, and to try to pigeonhole and catalog them all would make you crazy. It's ever so much better just to come to a place of knowing who you are through some testing and trial and error, so to speak. There is no error and there is no trial, but just by feeling around until you've felt yourself into alignment, and then just watch the magnificent rendezvous that you have on all levels with all beingness. In other words, the physical angels who come to you will be a vibrational match to where your predominant pattern of thought is. And we want to begin calling it, even in this gathering, rather than a predominant pattern of thought, a predominant vibration, a predominant feeling, a predominant knowing. We would like to call the word love and emotion, but we would also like to call the word knowing an emotion. We want you to know. We want you to allow your vortex to let you know it. And the only way you can allow your vortex to let you know it fully is by quieting your mind, by de-emphasizing thoughts, by getting less specific about things that bother you, by almost getting tongue-tied. Have you ever started to tell someone a negative story and it just goes right out of your mind? That's because the story that you for a moment started to tell is not a vibrational match to who you predominantly are. And so as you allow your vortex to train you into knowing who you really are, then the energy that you rendezvous with will always be the perfect energy at the right time to unfold this delicious life. Not because there's something meaningful that you need to know that the energy knows that it's trying to teach you, but because it's fun. This constant evolution and expansion of beingness is just such a delicious, fun beingness, you say.
Thank you.
Something more?
No, I'm good. Thank you.